All right, we live. So yeah, I guess that was the whole premise. We were going to talk about Dr. Fauci's emails that just got dropped, and they're kind of bad in a way because it basically says like a whole bunch of crap that he was saying is not actually true, like from what he was saying in public as opposed to what he was saying in private. He was talking about like gain of function research, or like the issue of rather this thing could have come out of a lab or whatever. It kind of went a little south in that situation. He was saying like there were a bunch of emails that said yeah maybe, and then of course publicly it was like no man, this thing came from a bat. Some strange information come out of that the bats that they're saying this thing came from are like 1,000 miles away in hibernation when this thing dropped. So I don't know. I just want to kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, I've got no idea about what's happened with Fauci's emails, but definitely the fact that he's come out now and saying, actually there could be something going on with China. It could be their fault. It's definitely, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a hydroxychloroquine. It's now okay to use, according to Fauci's emails. Yeah. Last year when they had the video that came out with the doctors talking about that, I was running an Instagram page then, and I shared that video, and I got that post was fact checked, and then within a month my account was deleted because of that sort of stuff. So like I was like talking about how masks weren't good, that hydroxychloroquine can be effective, and I was taken down for it. And now we're seeing the exact same thing. He's saying, actually, there could be masks don't work. Hydroxychloroquine works. It could be made in China. So, I guess we get the laugh. We get the last laugh here, really.
Yeah. The problem is it's what, 15, 16 months later now, and they're saying like, hey, this thing is all those things that you guys might have thought was actually something is now maybe not something. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a weird situation that we find ourselves in where it's like, especially when it comes to like this situation where it's like you're not allowed to talk about specific things, right? Because if you do, then you're going to be ridiculed and or deleted or whatever. But now all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's some teeth to this particular argument that maybe the lab leak situation, that kind of argument, and that's problematic in my head, because I'm like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we just have that conversation right off the get-go that, I mean, I guess the easiest way for me to look at it is that, so yeah, sure, you had the Wuhan lab, right? But then you did have the wet market. And so when they were like, hey man, this was like bat coronavirus from this wet market. To be fair, I don't know anything about wet markets. I don't know what that even means necessarily. I don't know if they sell bats there, right? But it seemed reasonable. I'm like, okay, you're selling things that you would not otherwise sell, like at Kroger or whatever grocery store you might know in Australia. Like, it seems reasonable. Like maybe something went south, right?
Well, wet markets, they sell raw meat, so
right.
That's where that comes from. Like the way I see it, being a law school student, the way I see it is that, like, although I'm not going to accuse them outright and say like it's definitely their fault, I always give them the benefit of the doubt. I definitely think it is likely, but it is innocent till proven guilty in my mind. So we should investigate it, but we shouldn't go around saying that this is concrete either way until we have an answer through the investigation. But sadly, they shut down the investigation that Trump wanted to have. And I'm not saying that Trump's a good guy or anything. I'm saying that in this case, when it comes to COVID, he tended to be more right than wrong, from what I've seen.
So far, it seems like he actually kind of had a pretty good idea of what was going on, or at least he was able to argue what might be effectual in that situation. I agree with you on that. My outlook on it was that it's like, look, what difference does it make where it came from? I suppose that was my original thought, right? What difference does it make where it came from? But it was really weird to me that they're like, well, no, but it came from the wet market. And you're like, but there was a bio lab, right? Like across the street. And they're like, no, that's not important. And it turns out that a lot of the evidence now, it's like, oh, actually, that was kind of important.
I love how they could just automatically know, without doing any research or investigation, that it came from the wet market. That they had, it was definite, without any other research, it was definitely from the wet market.
I don't even know how I don't know how you can just accept that. I don't know how you can accept that, like, without any investigation, that you're just like, no, yeah, that's what it was. It's like, wait, dude, what do you mean? Like, come on, there's other options here. Like, it's nothing to me. I don't understand. Anyway, so you have not been able to read any of these Fauci emails.
No, sadly. I want to, but I haven't had time yet.
Yeah, so we'll just cover a couple of short-based things. That some of them were essentially, it was Fauci saying like, hey, did anything we do or any money we paid cause any of this? Which I don't think that's actually even reasonable to figure out if that's accurate. You know what I mean? Because they did it through a third party, so there's no way to find out. You know what I mean? Gain of function research, circumstances, or whatever. And then also there was just the basic situation of him saying like, and it was kind of the flip-flopping on the masks and the other nonsensical things that he said over the last, I don't know, over a year at this point, right? Where he's like, yeah, don't wear a mask, do wear a mask, do wear 4 masks, do wear 8 masks. We don't really know what's going on. Like, so, and I'm not trying to like dog the guy. I'm just saying that, like, you know, it's problematic because his emails don't dictate what he said publicly, and that's okay. Like, I understand, but I'm saying like it makes him look pretty bad. You know what I mean? Even though he hasn't also been put in a position to be able to explain himself.
I think my favorite thing from all of this is, if you remember last year when they said that Trump, in Trump's meetings behind the scenes, Trump was saying that COVID's really bad, and the media went all out on that, talking about how Trump's secret meetings about how bad COVID was and how bad he was misleading the public and stuff, and how important that was. But we've had these emails, and there's radio silence.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, what? I mean, I suppose I agree. It sounds really bad, I guess, when you look at it from the perspective of like, hey, we have these emails that contradict everything that we've heard publicly, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, that sounds really bad. It looks really bad. But on the other side of that argument is that this, I don't know how to explain this. They didn't present anything different. They just said, like, well, Fauci said this one thing and then he said this different thing in an email. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me because people, one of the arguments that Fauci made was like, oh, the science changed. Now, I have my own personal opinion about Dr. Fauci, and I have my own personal opinion about all that situation. But it just seems weird to me to just immediately be like, he's a piece of shit. I don't really understand how we handle that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, basically the way I see it is that all the every country and every state's medical advisors in COVID have been pretty bad at it because they're trying to combine medicine and politics.
Mm-hmm.
And politics doesn't mix with anything. Like politics and economics doesn't mix. Politics and law often doesn't mix. Politics and medicine doesn't mix. Politics shouldn't be involved in medicine, and they're trying to do mandates and stuff that will appeal to the voter base rather than doing what's actually right to do. So a lot of what they're trying to do, they keep changing it, not only because science is changing, but also because they're trying to appeal to more voters and also to restrict rights where they need to.
Yeah, 100%. I get that. Like, that makes sense to me. What do you think? Your personal opinion. I know you can't give a legal opinion, but your personal opinion. If it was you in this position that Dr. Fauci was in, what would be your ideology of how would you handle this particular circumstance to, one, negate yourself from risk, obviously, right, which you do understand as a law student, but also to negate the majority of the population of risk? How would you handle this situation?
So if I was where he was dealing with COVID,
exactly.
I would basically let people decide how they want to, because the way I see it is that humanity has gotten where we are today through survival of the fittest. I know this seems quite blunt, young, inexperienced guy, but the way I see it is humanity's gotten to where we are through survival of the fittest. So if people want to follow certain guidelines, or a business wants to say you can't come in our store unless you're wearing a mask, it's your decision or the business decision as to what they do. But I don't think the government should be telling you run your life in a certain way. Sweden, for example, has a very low infection rate, and they didn't have many restrictions at all. So I think it's up to what you want to do. If you want to protect yourself, then go ahead, but don't make other people sacrifice just so you can feel safe. Because I know from what I have seen from Fauci's emails, I have seen a couple of them, that one of them he said that with the regards to the masks, that they're only really effective for the infected. If you're healthy, they don't really protect you. Yeah. That's from one of the emails that I saw. So the way I see it is, if you look at that sort of stuff, then definitely, like, you shouldn't force it. It should be a personal decision. Like, when you're infected, then you wear a mask, or before you're infected, you can wear gloves or whatever if you want to. But don't make me do what you want to do to protect yourself.
Yeah,
I'm a very big believer in natural rights.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. So, based on that, you're in Australia. That's a whole different circumstance from America. Like, even our worst state is not Australia. Like, it's not even close. Like, it's not even close. Have you guys started to at least relax some of your restrictions, or are you still just like, no, man, this is how it is and it doesn't matter? And like, so that's one of the things that I've noticed when people, now, first of all, and I will agree with anyone in America that says anything that is anti-freedom, I'm going to go with them on that, no matter what. But you guys are under a different perception than we are. So, have you seen some relaxation of the rules where you live, or?
So we have a standard like level of restrictions, and then when the COVID reaches a certain state, then the restrictions increase. So Victoria right now, which is where Melbourne is, they've recently had tougher lockdowns because they had a few cases. They had 4 cases yesterday, and they had to put in place really tough restrictions. It was 7 days, and then we Australians
Did
who are
they
against
have to put them in, or did they choose to put
they
them in?
chose to, and then Australians who were against the lockdowns then said, like, what are you doing this for? And then the left responded by saying it's only 7 days, and now they've gone for another 7 days of lockdowns. Meanwhile, Australia has the restrictions in place for I think 440 days. Around that many days we've had restrictions in place for, and saying it's only 7 days. No, it's not. It's well over a year. And they're still saying the same lines over and over again. But yeah, restrictions are still at a certain level. So we have, at least in my state, Queensland, we've got mandatory QR codes. So all businesses have to provide QR codes to check in, and they have to be done through the government.
What is that? What's that mean?
So a QR code is one of those like squares with like it's one of those squares with like white and black pixel dots and stuff in it that you scan with your phone.
I know what a QR code is.
Okay,
but
yes.
What is the code for? Is what I mean.
So the code's to check in. So you check into a certain place and you put your details in
to figure out what
basically how they.
what you're up to.
It's basically mandatory contact tracing, even for the uninfected.
Oh, okay. And so that's just something that you guys you don't have a choice in this matter. You just do this thing.
Yeah, if we don't do it, we get in trouble. If businesses don't do it, they get fined.
What does trouble mean? Like, I think that's something that would be important for at least Americans, like to understand, because we're not allowed to use the Holocaust anymore. So maybe we can use Australia, like, for our argument. Like, what does it mean in trouble?
I haven't heard any stories personally of people getting arrested for it. Like, I don't think they can really enforce it because even when I'm around people, I don't see anyone doing QRs. Or again, I'm rural Australia, but I don't see anyone doing QR codes checking or anything. Like, I haven't seen much of that really, except at hospitals. But it's the hospital. Like, they don't let you in unless you do it at the hospital. But yeah, from what I've seen, a lot of people just don't care because we're rural Australia. We haven't seen any cases since May last year. It's been a year, and we're still saying at all. They're still saying wear your mask, social distance, mandatory QR codes, and people are just fed up, and we've given up on it. But they won't and we've had a few protests, but nothing major. But I know in Victoria, if you protest, they were arresting people for protesting the lockdowns, and they actually went in and arrested a mother who was about to have a ultrasound done because she did a Facebook post against the lockdowns. It's a lot worse than what you guys have in America, from what I've seen. And I'm like, in Queensland, at one point they were letting in Hollywood stars, but we couldn't celebrate and do ours. So we couldn't celebrate Anzac Day, which is our version of Memorial Day. We couldn't do a heap of stuff, but we couldn't do what we wanted to do. But they were happy to let in rich Hollywood stars because they brought in money. Football games are going at an 80,000 person football game in Melbourne, but you can't protest against the lockdowns. So go figure. So it's very much ridiculous. I know, and even with all this push to have vaccines, Queensland's Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk has not yet had her vaccine. From what I've, if I can remember correctly, she hasn't even taken the vaccine yet, and she's the state premier, which is our version of your governor.
Like a state governor.
Yeah, it'd be like Cuomo not taking the vaccine, basically, is what she's doing.
Oh, okay, I understand. Man, that's crazy to me. Like you guys, it seems to me like the majority of kind of how your government operates is somewhat close to how ours operates, but not fully, I suppose, because like we have our president or whatever, and I know that a lot of it is somewhat close to how it works, right? But I don't know, how's that, is there a mechanism that you guys have that maybe America doesn't have, that your particular, like your PM or whatever, maybe has more power than, say, our president has? Or is there a mechanism for that? Or is it, I'm a little confused to that.
So our prime minister has less power. So our prime minister is also a member of the lower house.
I don't know what that means.
So if your lower house is House of Reps.
Oh, so like if they were a member of Congress.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So the prime minister is so when we have our elections, we elect people to the lower house and to the Senate, and they work the same way as in America, for election wise. And then the party that gets the majority in the lower house, then the Governor General, who represents the Queen of England, will then appoint the leader of that party to be the Prime Minister of Australia. And then from there, the Prime Minister then appoints different members of the House of Representatives and occasionally the Senate to serve as members of the cabinet, so the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense. So instead of the American president appointing secretaries, who are independent, so to speak, our cabinet is drawn all from sitting members of the parliament.
Oh, okay. So they can't just like how our president can just go like, hey, this piece of shit that works at Raytheon or Lockheed Martin or whatever, they can bring them in. That doesn't work. In your government, it has to be a sitting member of government.
Yes. So in that sense, it's a bit less of a military-industrial complex because they're a bit more independent. But usually the cabinet, so then the Minister of Defense will pick their own advisors, who are then from big military firms. So there's still some, but it's a bit more disconnected.
No, I understand. Okay.
Instead of going straight from
my understanding is that other than my understanding is that other than the U.S. military, or the United States, I shouldn't say U.S. military, the United States in general, is that Australia and Sweden are the biggest not proponents, that's the wrong word. They're the largest manufacturers of firearms globally. Is that accurate, or is that something
I wouldn't know.
Not inaccurate?
I would have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, I do know Sweden's up there. I don't know that they're
Sweden, random bit of trivia, Sweden was producing their own line of tanks during World War II. So Sweden is a very military-based country. They've always had enemies in Europe. So
they're only military-based for selling military hardware.
Yeah, so they don't have much of an army themselves, but they're a big exporter of arms. And they have to be the cutting edge because they've got Russia to their east.
Yeah.
And Sweden and Russia have never gotten on.
No, it's a weird thing. I don't think any other country in Russia have ever gotten on. Like, it's just kind of one of those things. Like, we just
Mongolia, maybe.
Like, so you're in Australia. Because you guys have like your own. You have your own world. You're like America in that regard. That you have your own. Like, you have some of the most dangerous shit in the planet that just lives where you live.
Yeah.
Like if these weird little bugs bite you, you will die. Like, there's no gay. I mean, it's just over. That's got to be insanely odd to live in a place that like this tiny little bug can bite you and you'll die.
Yeah.
And there's no.
We're used to it.
Yeah, I know, but I would like for you to at least kind of pontificate on how odd it is that you live in a place like Americans take a lot of shit for granted, right? We take like the most, well, I don't know if this is true, but the dangerous shit in our country is like black widow spiders or like diamondback rattlesnakes or whatever. But there's not, maybe some cottonmouths, whatever. We don't have like super poisonous things that are going to kill us. You know what I mean? You live in a land that will, like, a lot of shit can just absolutely wreck your day. That I guess I kind of just want to know what is that like to live in a place where fucking a bunch of different things can just wipe you out. And these are not like, it's not like a snake, it's like bugs that will just fuck your life up.
I say, to us, your animals are tame.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's not so much the bug, it'd be the diseases carried by the bug, because the diseases in Australia were isolated from the rest of the world, so they developed in a different way. So we didn't have malaria and stuff in Indigenous Australia until Europeans brought it in, but we had our own diseases here that humans still aren't 100% immune to, probably. There'd still be bacteria and stuff in the middle of Australia. So bugs aren't going to kill you really, but definitely, it's not much of an exaggeration. A lot of stuff here will kill you.
I see. Well, I mean, I guess that. Well, that's a good answer. I mean, I like it. I don't know, man. You got anything else you wanna add? Like, I'm exhausted. It's been a long fucking day, and I'm already under siege. So.
No,
You're going
good.
to be under siege anyway, just for doing this thing. So.
Yes, probably.
Whatever.
It's
Tell
fine.
them to bite you. It wasn't your fault. It's on me. Like, let them send their irony or aggression towards me. You didn't do anything wrong here. You just like having a conversation. Anyway, what do you got going on? Are you gonna graduate soon? You're like, you should be.
No, so I'm
close.
second of 4 years.
Oh,
So I'm not even halfway.
Man, you got a long time ago.
I've got, well, it would be 5 years, but I'm doing summer semester, so basically summer school for university, because otherwise it would be 5 years, and then because it's a law degree, I have to do another year of work experience. So
Right.
I'd be looking at 6 years before I can end up becoming a lawyer. So I'm doing half the normal workload of 4 units over the semester. So doing 2 units per semester to bring it down, over 2 units per summer semester to bring it down by 8 units overall, which is the equivalent of a year. So I'm just trying to bring it down just by that bit. So it means I don't get much of a holiday, but I get working sooner.
Nice. And you are looking to go to either England or America, right? That's
England, America,
what I remember from last time.
England, America, or the Netherlands. They're the top 3 on my list.
Netherlands. I don't remember you saying that, but why there?
Well, because
like, just a quick question: why there?
That's because The Hague is there, which is the International Court of Justice.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's number 3 on my list. So usually I just say England or America, but that is number 3 on my list. Would be the Netherlands.
So you can go to The Hague and keep war criminals out of prison or put them in prison. Well, either way.
Look, I'd probably be a defense lawyer just because I prefer defense more than I prefer prosecution. I love being on the back foot in defense cases. I love defending the if I was to practice in Australia, I could not handle being prosecution. Mainly because I'd be working for the state, but I prefer defense and trying to protect people. Because the way I see it, I'd rather let, and I don't remember who said it, but it's a famous quote. I'd rather let 20 innocent, I'd rather let 20 guilty men go than lock up one innocent person.
I completely agree with that. That actually, I believe, goes back to Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah,
if
probably
I
is Thomas
remember
Aquinas.
correctly, it was something along the lines of 100 guilty men go free over one go to prison, or well, one go to death, I believe is what he said.
Yes.
Was like a reasonable adaptation of law. So that's actually where America came up with their what was it? Their First Amendment, I don't fucking know. Whatever. My point was that it was that everyone gets, they're all innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
Except for, it turns out socially that's not true.
No.
So we'll figure that out. But hey, man, I appreciate you doing this. Let people know where they can find you. I did not. I forgot we were going to do this, so I kind of jumped the gun on it. But yeah,
so
let
just
people know where they find you.
Liberty Down Under on Twitter, underspelled UNDR, because Twitter doesn't like me having an E in there. So Liberty Down Under on Twitter is where you can find me.
Right on. You guys go follow him. He's really smart. I really appreciate his context of the European argument from the legal side. So peace out, homies.